The male protagonist is Blade and was once a hero of this world. On the day of fighting against the Demon Lord, they ran out of their power and were exhausted, but with their strong will they still pierced through each other's chests with their swords. After defeating the Demon Lord, Blade comes to the school dedicated to training heroes. The only difference is that his hair changed from white to black and white. Unlike other students, Blade comes here just to achieve his goal of making 100 friends. This attitude angers Ernest, the president of the student council. Ernest has a very hot temper and she hates the frivolous student like Blade. Blade doesn't care about Ernest's scolding, and when hearing Ernest is the president of the student council, he asks her to take him to the principal. Though angry, she still takes him to the principal's office. But what she sees shocks her. The original principal disappears and is replaced by the king of this country. Ernest quickly kneels down very nervously, but Blade shows an indifferent face. The king then says he needs to talk to Blade alone, and Ernest is kicked out of the room. In addition to being angry, she also suspects Blade's identity. Blade is unfriendly to the king and he doesn't know why the king is here. The king tells him that the previous principal is a wuss and that he has taken over the place and drastically revised the school's curriculum. His goal in doing so is to restore Blade's hero power. Blade is helpless and he came to school just to make friends, but there is little he can do about the king's actions. Soon after, Blade arrives at the training ground for students of the advanced class, and Ernest is very angry when she sees him. She thinks that Blade is a freshman and is not qualified to come here, but Blade directly takes out the recommendation letter in which the teacher recommends him to the advanced class. Ernest thinks Blade used some tricks to come and is about to scold him. However, Blade completely ignores her and starts to chat with other students on the training ground, trying to make friends with them. Seeing this, Ernest is furious and she says that as long as Blade can pass the test, he can stay. Afterward, Ernest takes out a training dummy wearing powerful armor and she asks Blade to attack. As long as he can slightly slice through it, he is qualified. After all, every student here can easily do this. What happens next shocks everyone. Using only 1/1000th of his power, Blade instantly wipes out the training dummy, and the shockwave caused by the attack makes the surrounding students into an unholy mess, even tearing Ernest's clothes. Ernest finally recognizes Blade's strength. At lunchtime, no one eats with Ernest because she has a hot temper, but Blade sits next to her as if nothing happened. Ernest apologizes to Blade because she underestimated his strength, but Blade thinks it is fine because they are friends now, causing Ernest to blush immediately. It is her first time hearing someone calling her a friend. Although she denies it, she still feels very happy about having a friend when she goes back to her room. Just then, a sword near Ernest makes a movement and she quickly holds the sword, which is called Asmodeus and is a cursed demon sword. Ernest accidentally touched the demon sword when she was 6 years old. The demon sword has its own will, eager to slaughter, and it tries to take over Ernest's body, but it has been temporarily suppressed by Ernest until now. Ernest's bad temper is also caused by the demon sword. But recently, Ernest finds herself less and less able to control the demon sword. The next day, when she is training with other students, she becomes more and more violent and almost hurts the student. In the end, she faints due to excessive physical consumption. Blade rushes her into the infirmary and he can tell that Ernest seems to be cursed by something. Ernest is his friend and he decides to help her. Through his intelligence network, he discovers that Ernest has a demon sword. He asks Ernest out alone, and with his experience as a hero for so many years, he can tell that Ernest's demon sword has great power. If she wants to completely control the demon sword, she must sign a contract with it and obtain its approval. Ernest certainly knows this, but if she doesn't get the approval of the demon sword, she will turn into a bloodthirsty demon who plagues the world. Blade reassures her that if it does happen, he will help her out of trouble. Looking at Blade's determined look and thinking about his mighty strength, Ernest agrees to communicate with the demon sword to sign a contract. After undergoing a fire test, Ernest enters the consciousness space of the demon sword to confront him. In the real world, a demon flame attacks Blade, but Blade easily eliminates it. Soon after, Ernest with her strong willpower successfully conquers the demon sword and completes the contract with him. Blade hugs her and both of them smile. From that day on, the hot-tempered Ernest has become a cute and gentle, beautiful girl which excites the students in school. After all, as the president of the student council, Ernest has been supervising the students' training, and if she loses her temper, the students will be the ones who suffer. Although she is very powerful, she also has troubles. One of her classmates is a girl named Sophie. Sophie treats others coldly, while Ernest is also not good at socializing, so she asks Blade to help train Sophie, hoping he can help Sophie better integrate into the group. Blade has come to school to make friends, so he agrees to the request. In the process of coming into contact with Sophie, Blade discovers that Sophie is very talented and quickly masters the skill of swordsmanship from him during her first training with him. The only thing he regrets is that Sophie is very cold to him when she is off training. At the end of today's training, the king who replaces the previous principal as the new one meets with Blade. Learning that Blade has recently been in contact with Sophie, he reveals a secret. Sophie is not a normal human. There was once a cult that created many experimental objects through various cruel experiments in order to create humans with the power of heroes. Sophie is the 12th generation of experimental objects they created, so she lacks the most basic human emotions and only obeys orders. Later, after the king eliminated the cult, he rescued the surviving Sophie. Hearing this, Blade is very sad, thinking it is because of the powerful hero in this world that the cult created Sophie. He blames Sophie's misfortune on himself, a former hero. To make up to Sophie, he decides to let her experience the life of an ordinary person that she hasn't experienced. But he feels a bit troubled because he has become a hero since he was 3 years old and he doesn't know how ordinary people live a life. So he asks other people in the school how ordinary people should live. He inquires with a group of people and comes to a conclusion. Ordinary people will experience youth, which means falling in love, and falling in love means going out on a date. Since Blade was raised as a hero at the age of 3, he only knows how to fight and has no common sense. In order to make up for his mistake as a hero, he rushes directly into the women's bathroom and proposes to Sophie, who is bathing, to go out on a date together. Seeing this, other students are stunned. Sophie thinks it is another training and agrees. By the next day, Blade has already made a date plan and takes Sophie to a nearby town. They eat and play games together, even drinking the same drink. The close contact with a girl makes Blade's heart beat faster, and this is also his first official date with a girl. Ernest, who hides in the shadows to observe, is very jealous. Since the last time Blade helped her conquer the demon sword, in fact, Ernest has secretly liked Blade, and that's why she follows him. After today's date, Blade and Sophie come to a park. It is Sophie's first time dating, and everything that happened today is fresh and interesting to her. Though she still looks cold, she has developed a different feeling for him. She asks why Blade has taken her out to do these things, and Blade laughs, saying because they are now friends. Sophie tries to recall the concept of friends in this world, and she tells Blade that friends can't lie to each other, so she wants to confess one thing to him. She then reveals her experience to him. At that time, she was created as an experimental object for the heroes and was the only one who possessed the power of hero, which can change physical principles, such as changing the gravity of herself and even stopping time. But Sophie can't well control this power, and she can only use the power of the hero for less than 10 seconds each time. Hearing Sophie's words, Blade blames himself even more. He confesses to her that he is the former hero, and because he inherited the power of the hero from an early age, he has been training to fight since he was 3 years old. However, no matter how powerful he is, there is only one hero after all, and he cannot save all mankind. Every time people die because he shows up, he falls into deep self-remorse, thinking that the power of the hero is a curse. He apologizes to Sophie, who would not have suffered pain if it were not for the presence of the hero. To his surprise, Sophie doesn't get angry but hugs him. Sophie has traveled alone since she was rescued from the cult by the king. She has seen many towns and humans saved by the hero, and they are all very grateful to him. She comforts Blade, saying he should be proud to be a hero. Sophie is honored to be created because of the hero, because she also wants to make others happy like what the hero does. With Sophie's comfort, Blade cheers up, and he no longer blames himself. Sophie holds his hand and shows a smile for the first time. From this day on, Sophie and Blade become very close, and even during meals, Sophie will personally help Blade wipe his mouth, which makes Ernest very jealous. At this moment, there is a loud noise in the school, and Blade and his classmates rush over to take a look and find that a green dragon has appeared. Everyone is frightened and steps back except for Blade, who seems unconcerned, still holding his unfinished lunch. Blade jumps up and easily knocks down the dragon, then feeding the dragon with the lunch in his hand. The students on the side are stunned, and they never expect that the powerful dragon is just a piece of cake for Blade. What happens next surprises them even more. This huge dragon turns into a human form, becoming a cute loli who directly throws herself into Blade's arms and calls him her father. Blade doesn't know what happened and can only take her back to his room. He then gives the loli a name, Ku. While he is bathing Ku, Ernest comes to his room and tells him about the information she has gathered. Ku is invited by the principal to the school to conduct special training for students, but she was defeated instantly by Blade. Dragons worship the strong, and that's why she considers Blade her father after he defeated her. Just after saying the information, Ernest finds that Blade is actually bathing with Ku. She kicks him in the face, and after calling him a pervert, she leaves in anger. After figuring out what happened, Blade takes Cl4ssr00m to dinner with everyone, and he wants Cl4ssr00m and his friends to get to know each other, only to find that Cl4ssr00m is only very close to him and despises everyone else. Through investigation, Blade finds that this is actually the nature of the dragon race, which only worships the strong and does not make friends with the weak at all. Blade thinks that Cl4ssr00m has long been accustomed to such a life, but one day he discovers Cl4ssr00m is secretly playing house with the dolls made of cloth. She remembers the names of everyone in the school and arranges scenes for everyone. Seeing this, Blade feels very ashamed. Although he is not Cl4ssr00m's real father, he develops a good relationship with her during the days they spent together. In order to make Cl4ssr00m no longer alone, Blade decides to help her make more friends. As I mentioned earlier, the nature of the dragon race causes Cl4ssr00m to only recognize humans who are stronger than her, so Blade pleads with the students of the school to unite against Cl4ssr00m. In order to get the students to agree, Blade even kneels down, and Ernest and Sophie plead with the students together. With their sincere request, the students finally agree to this request. In the eyes of the dragon race, humans are actually like bees, so for the dragon race it is acceptable to be jointly attacked. Principal also doesn't object because he takes Cl4ssr00m here to train the students. With the efforts of many people, a duel between humans and the dragon is about to begin. The students of the academy attack her together, and after a long time of fighting they finally defeat her. Cl4ssr00m recognizes everyone's strength and she asks them if they can be friends with her. Faced with such a cute loli's request, they happily agree. From this day on, Cl4ssr00m has many friends. Because of her cute face, the students are very fond of her, especially some female students. They take the initiative to feed her as if she is their daughter. While eating, Blade looks at Ernest and he suddenly feels that she is a little different. Upon checking closer, he discovers that Ernest seems to have gained a lot of weight and says it loud. Now he has got a big problem. It's very rude to say that a girl is fat. Not surprisingly, Ernest runs away from the restaurant angrily. In fact, all the students present have long noticed this, but they dare not say it. Blade, worrying that he can't be friends with Ernest anymore, quickly finds her and apologizes to her. He thinks Ernest is crying sadly, but when he sees her, she is hiding in her room eating various desserts. In fact, Ernest also realizes that she has gained weight, and she has gained a good appetite since she signed the contract with the demon sword, but she doesn't have a good way to deal with it. In order to help Ernest lose weight, everyone develops many weight loss plans. They take her to exercise every day and even force her to diet. Ernest is tired every day, but weight loss doesn't occur. A student thinks this is because she eats too much high-calorie food but does not burn off enough calories. Hence, Ernest thinks of a trick. She asks Blade to go to the playground and then takes out her sword to turn into her demon form, which is said to be able to burn off a lot of calories every hour and is more efficient than running every day. Not long after, Ernest falls to the ground. It turns out that she has just burned off too many calories and she is hungry again. At this moment, Ernest has entered a state of madness, shouting that she is hungry and rushing towards a nearby female student as if she wants to eat her. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Blade casts powerful wind magic to turn Ernest back to her original form. After the crisis is resolved, Ernest has regained her original weight. Since that day, Ernest has not dieted and she decides to transform every time she gets fat, which is much easier than dieting and exercising every day. Faced with Ernest's indulgence, Blade can only accept it helplessly. On this day, Blade comes to the infirmary to check on his body, which seems to have developed problems after his reborn. The beautiful doctor tells him that now he can barely use 30% of his original strength, and if not, he is likely to die directly. It seems that the female doctor also knows the secret that Blade was once a hero. Blade is already the strongest if he uses a little power casually in the school, and it is impossible that he uses more than 30% of his power. But what happens next surprises him. A female student named Maria finds Blade and she asks him to kill her if necessary. With her explanation, Blade finally knows everything. Maria lost her parents at a very young age and would now be a homeless orphan if she had not been taken in by the school. She can feel that there has been another personality hidden in her body, and the power of this personality is very strong. Since she was a child, she has worn various props that seal power. Recently, she feels that she is almost unable to suppress this personality. Worrying that this personality will harm others if it takes possession of her body, she asks the powerful Blade to kill her if necessary. With just a glance, Blade can tell that Maria is not a human but a powerful demon. However, instead of looking down on Maria for this, he decides to help her solve her troubles, and the students present also express sympathy after hearing about Maria's life and decide to help her together. Blade comes up with a way. He asks Maria to release her personality inside her. If they can suppress the power of this personality, she does not have to worry about it in the future. At Blade's suggestion, Maria removes the props that seal power. Just when she takes off her necklace, her form changes dramatically. She grows long ears and demon wings on her back. The hidden personality completely occupies her body. Sensing the demon lord's scent on Maria's body, Blade is very surprised as Maria is just an ordinary demon, but her strength is amazingly powerful. The students present all launch their strongest skill, but none of them can hurt her. When it's Blade's turn, he also fails to hurt the demon girl and his weapon is broken. At the critical moment, Arnest gives the demon sword in her hand to Blade, allowing him to barely defeat the demon girl. However, Blade also faints from exhaustion. When Blade wakes up again, the female doctor hugs him nervously. She reprimands Blade for using his power indiscriminately, which causes further physical injuries. From this day on, Blade cannot use more than 15% of his power. What Blade cares about the most is Maria's condition. Luckily, she puts on her necklace again and the power has been sealed. But the demon's personality is still possessing Maria's body, and she seems to be interested in this world and does not show aggression for the time being. Curious about Maria's identity, Blade approaches the principal who actually recruited Maria. Maria's mother is a human and her father is the former demon lord. That is to say, Maria is the daughter of the demon lord. No wonder Blade was able to feel the demon lord's scent on Maria's body. Although the demon's power has been sealed, Blade still thinks it is a bit dangerous. Just when he doesn't know how to deal with it, the demon comes to Blade. It turns out that in the previous battle, the demon discovers Blade's identity as a hero from his combat skills. The demon then talks about her own life. In fact, Maria has never known who her father is, and she has lived with her mother since she was a child. As a demon, she is discriminated against by humans and lives a miserable life. When her mother died 5 years ago, Maria was completely devastated, feeling that her father did not love her and her mother at all, which leads to the current tragedy. It was also on that day that the demon personality was born. So strictly speaking, the demon personality is only 5 years old this year. Actually, this personality is created by Maria to escape the pain of reality, and now Maria's true personality is hidden in her body and does not want to appear. The reason why the demon tells so much to Blade is that she is actually a bit fond of him. The female demons naturally worship the strong, and after being defeated by Blade, she is attracted to him. After knowing the truth, Blade feels much more at ease. A few days later, a student accidentally finds that the demon's necklace is able to store information. Perhaps something that the gift giver wants to say is hidden inside it. With the help of this student, the seal of the necklace is removed, and the next moment they see a video of the demon lord. It turns out that this is what the demon lord was going to say to Maria before leaving. He told Maria that he had an enemy to deal with and that this battle would be very dangerous, so he had to leave her and her mother. In any case, he wants Maria to remember that he will always love them. The Maria personality hidden in her body also hears these words, and her resentment towards her father disappears completely at this moment. Soon Maria reconciles with the demon personality and reappears in front of everyone. From this day on, they find that Maria and the demon coexist in the body. Maria is gentle and the demon is somewhat hot-tempered. When fighting, the demon personality will occupy the body. Since then, Blade has had a new friend. On this day, Blade and his friends walk on the streets, and Blade meets one of his acquaintances, a female centaur knight, Dione. Dione once fought with the hero, and she almost shouts out Blade's identity as a hero. Blade quickly covers her mouth, telling her that his hero identity is now a secret. Dione is now on a mission to deliver a huge cargo to the Hero Academy, and with everyone's help they arrive at the academy successfully. In fact, Dione was specially invited by the principal, and in addition to helping to deliver the goods, she will also be the new teacher of the academy from now on. Before teaching students, she decides to show her power in front of everyone. Right now there are many god irons on the playground which are said to be too hard to be broken. But to everyone's surprise, Dione, holding her spear, rushes towards these god irons. The next moment the god irons are pierced through and are then completely melted by the heat. Dione's strength is thus recognized by all the students. Soon Dione gets acquainted with the students and becomes a respected teacher. Soon after, Blade and Arnis discover a strange thing. One of the legendary continental sacred birds, Cl4ssr00m, appears over their town. Normally this sacred bird is particularly friendly to humans and will not attack humans. This time a Cl4ssr00m unexpectedly attacks the human carriage and is very angry. Blade remembers the goods that Dione delivered not long ago, so he immediately approaches the principal to inquire about the situation. Under the headmaster's explanation, they learn the truth of the matter. The goods that Dione delivered before are actually Cl4ssr00m's eggs. These eggs can only be hatched under specific conditions. It must be put at several hundred meters high and bathe in the light of the setting sun to hatch. However, the principal notices the position that the Cl4ssr00m's picked for a nest is too low to meet the conditions for hatching. Hence he decided to steal the egg with the intention to train the students for their combat power and to help hatch the eggs. The strongest among them, Blade is in charge of the operation and their purpose is to stop Cl4ssr00m from intervening and transport the egg to the highest tower of the academy before the sun goes down. The most difficult part of this operation is that there is not just one Cl4ssr00m but a pair. They must fight against two sacred birds at the same time. Fortunately, they don't have to defeat them and just need to try their best to stall them. The two sacred birds have terrifying strength and the students' attack can't hurt them. The students then try to trap the birds with chains which are stuck to the houses, but these houses are directly pulled up by the sacred bird. The sacred birds are so powerful that they can't be trapped at all. To make matters worse, the hanging basket used to deliver the egg is stuck in the air. Seeing that the sun is about to set, Blade rushes to the egg, but unfortunately he cannot release his strongest power and he cannot even lift the heavy egg. Luckily, Dion shows up in time and she pushes Blade towards the top of the tower. Finally, they finish the mission before the sun goes down. However, the Cl4ssr00m spots the egg and rushes towards it. At this time, the principal appears in front of the egg. It turns out that he was saved by a Cl4ssr00m a long time ago, and this time he would desperately help hatch the egg because he wants to repay the Cl4ssr00m for saving his life. But he underestimates the strength of the Cl4ssr00m and is knocked away. At this moment, Sophie unleashes the power of the artificial hero to pause time, and Cl4ssr00m is kept still in the air. However, this only lasts a few seconds and Blade seizes the time to launch his skills to temporarily stop the Cl4ssr00m from attacking. After that, he and Sophie fall to the ground. At the final moment, the afterglow of the setting sun falls on the egg, which slowly breaks and a pair of twin young birds hatches out. Interestingly, the first thing the two young birds see are Blade and Sophie, so they treat them as their relatives. After this incident, the Cl4ssr00m also realize that this group of humans was helping them. Everything returns to its peace and Blade has made two bird friends. On a dark and gloomy day, we see Blade as he walks through the academy hall with a bloody sword. The other students confront him, but he cuts them all down in an instant. He reaches Sophie and she reveals she has always wondered what would happen if she went all out against him. She uses her power to freeze time, landing multiple simultaneous attacks. But when time resumes, Blade is unaffected. He grabs her by the neck, revealing he protected himself by making his body as hard as adamantium. He plunges his sword into her chest and she falls to the ground, but Blade suddenly calls out to the king saying he wants to get out of the illusion. The king appears on a screen saying it's not an illusion, and he reveals Blade is in a virtual reality, saying it was created by the branch of magic called science. He says that in this world they are able to fight all out without hurting somebody, so it's the perfect place to train. Blade thinks it's too realistic and he worries that people could mix up if they are in the virtual world and attack people in the real world. The king adjusts the settings and he transforms the world into a Candyland, telling Blade it's a fight to the death and the winner gets to use the virtual reality however they want. We see Leonard charging with his lance, but Ernest takes him out. It seems she is taking full advantage of the virtual world as she lets her impulses control her. As Blade walks around, he sees Clay fighting against Jessica and Chasm fighting against Claire. Jessica gets pushed back and the boys tell them to just give up because they have never lost against them in a fight, but the girls refuse to give up and Jessica manages to take out Chasm while Claire smashes Clay with her mace. Ernest approaches them and it seems she's after Blade. She charges at him like a psycho, but Blade slashes rapidly, blowing everything away. Blade wakes up and the king announces that he was the last man standing. Claire and Jessica note that they couldn't even see his attack and Ernest cries as she reflects on her unhinged behavior, but the king laughs, calling her entertaining. Ernest is not impressed and Blade starts using the virtual reality machine. The king sees him adding the strongest monsters into the world and he thinks it would be tough even for the hero. But Blade ends up plugging the king instead. The king is terrified as he goes up against all kinds of monsters and Blade tells the king's assistant to keep reviving him if he dies. Blade enjoys his lunch and we see that Clay and Chasm are depressed. Ernest wonders what's going on and Blade tells her how they were beaten by the girls, saying that they probably got complacent with their skills and neglected their training. After lunch, Blade sees a flyer for a new hot spring and they find Dion digging outside. She welcomes them in and they all take a relaxing bath together. Blade notices that Ernest is missing and Jessica thinks she has something against a hot spring. But Ernest appears from behind a rock, revealing she isn't a fan of the mixed bath. We see Clay and Chasm are still depressed and the girls try to tell them that they just got lucky, but that doesn't work. Claire apologizes for winning, but this destroys their egos and they run off in tears. At night, Blade checks up on the two of them, but they think he wouldn't understand since he has never lost. They reveal that they are in love with the two girls and it's the reason they feel so bad about losing. Ku suddenly bursts in saying all they need to do is get stronger because girls like guys that are strong, and she tells them that Blade can train them. Meanwhile, the girls have a girls' night and Jessica wonders what they should do about Chasm and Clay. Claire suggests throwing a fight against them, but the others think that would only make things worse. Cl4ssr00m suddenly appears saying that guys like strong women, and she tells them they should get even stronger, but it seems the girls aren't really into them like that. Chasm and Clay undergo Blade's training and he makes them do all kinds of crazy exercises. The next virtual reality class arrives and the guys think about confessing to the girls if they win. They prepare to have their rematch and Blade tells them to begin. As they start to fight, the girls rush at them. But we see the guys have learned how to use their spiritual energy and they push the girls back. Blade says he helped them recognize it, but it seems the girls are also able to use it after learning from Ernest. Claire takes Chasm out with her mace while Jessica freezes Clay and she finishes him off with lightning. After the fight, the guys thank them for not going easy and they swear to get even stronger. Chasm wonders about Jessica's lightning attacks and she reveals she learned them thanks to Sophie and Maria. Clay thinks they were ganged up on, but Ernest steps forward saying they are training from Blade. She goes on to ask them why they need to be stronger than the person they like, saying it's a ridiculous requirement because she knows she will never be stronger than Blade. The girls discover a robot and they wonder what it's doing there, but it suddenly activates, displaying a picture of Blade. We see Blade meditating when Cl4ssr00m launches at him, but his aura pushes her back. Cl4ssr00m wonders what he's doing and Blade tells her he was storing up his power so that he can use more than 15% at a time. At that moment, the girls arrive with the robot telling him that it's been looking for him, but he suddenly pulls out his sword, instantly destroying it with his Dragon Eater skill. His sword breaks as he comments that his meditation worked because he isn't exhausted after using the skill. Ernest asks him why he destroyed the robot, so Blade tells her that they need to destroy it, calling it a guardian. As they talk, the robot scans Ernest's body and it performs a system update. If you like my videos, you can support me by becoming a channel member, or you can donate me on Buy Me a Coffee. Your support will encourage me to make more videos. You can find links in the video description.
Yeah.
The next day, the robot is back, but has taken the form of a girl, revealing that she designed the form to arouse Blade's protective instincts. Blade asks her who she is, but she prepares to attack him, so he strikes first, sending her crashing into the wall. Ernest beats him for attacking a girl, wondering what he's thinking, but Blade tells her not to worry. After some time, the girl recovers and Blade wants to destroy her right away, but Ernest stops him, saying the girl isn't dangerous. However, Blade isn't convinced, knowing how dangerous guardians can be. The girl reveals that she was given an order to destroy him and she is currently observing him to gather more data. Claire asks her if she wants to join their class, calling her Iona because she sees the name on her chest. But the girl reveals that it's read as 10NA and it's actually her identification number, but Claire insists on calling her Iona. Iona isn't interested in joining their class, but Claire tells her that they will help her come up with a plan to defeat Blade and she agrees to work with her. They discuss how to defeat Blade as Claire asks Iona why she is after him. We learned that Blade entered the area she was guarding, which was the Royal Library, where he learned about Asmodeus. Iona reveals that Blade destroyed her multiple times, but Blade tells her that she always attacked him first, so he had no choice but to fight back. The girls condemned Blade's behavior, so he starts walking away. Sophie follows him and Blade tells her that he only broke into the library because of his duties as the great hero. We learned that guardians keep their souls in a separate location so they won't die if their bodies are destroyed. Eliza thinks that Iona can't win because Blade knows that she won't die if he attacks her, so Eliza comes up with a plan. Eliza explains that if they install Iona's soul into her body, Blade will hesitate to attack her because she is no longer indestructible. At the arena, Blade and Iona are about to fight, but she tells him that she is no longer connected to her mother computer, so she will die if she is destroyed. She proceeds to give him a beating, blowing him away and asking him what's wrong. Blade is about to use his Dragon Eater skill, but he hesitates, knowing she will die if he uses it. So he uses the skill with his bare hands instead, but it has no effect on her and she proceeds to taking him down and landing a strike which shatters the area around them. Blade admits defeat and everyone celebrates it as victory. After some time, Iona explains that she's been trying to reconnect with the mother computer, but it isn't accepting her connection, seeing her as a defective unit, and she doesn't feel secure because she has no supervisor. She wants Blade to be her master, saying the counter will keep ticking if he refuses. Iona reveals that she is going to self-destruct, making everyone panic as we learn that she will explode in a few days, so Blade tells her that he can be her master. Iona becomes Blade's servant, saying she will obey his commands, but Sophie becomes upset because Iona is stealing her character traits, so they start competing for Blade's attention. They have a contest to determine who will be able to serve Blade better, and that evening they watch Blade as he sleeps. Iona reveals that she was always alone and that Blade was the only person who came to visit her. Sophie was also alone when she was at the lab, saying she was only able to stay linked with the world because of Blade. They realize that they aren't so different, so they start to get along, making Blade happy. The next day Blade asks Iona to show on the counter, and we learn that she will self-destruct in a few hours. She reveals that serving Blade only slowed down the counter, as Eliza speculates that it must be because Blade is human. Iona tells them that she wants to spend her last moments with them, so they throw a party for her. As Sophie tells her to enjoy the moment because everyone is trying to make her wish come true, calling her a friend. They enjoy their time together, and after the party Ernest starts looking for Blade, but he's nowhere to be found. Iona's time is about to run out, so she walks away from the others and protects them with a barrier. Iona thanks them for helping her enjoy her final moment, saying she now understands humans. She tells Ernest that she is scared because she doesn't want her life to end, telling them not to forget about her. She bids them farewell, but to their surprise Iona doesn't self-destruct, so they start to wonder what's going on. At that moment Blade comes out of the ground and Ernest asks him why he didn't attend the party. Blade reveals that he went to the mother computer and begged her to let Iona live. His actions caused Iona connection with the mother computer to be restored, so she will no longer self-destruct, so they all celebrate. The Academy has a battle royale where every student uses their powers to compete, but Blade wipes the floor with everyone. Leonard is still standing, so everyone cheers for him, telling him to defeat Blade. He wants to win for Ernest, but she thinks that he'll lose knowing how weak he is. Leonard charges at Blade, who easily defeats him as the others walk away, seeing him as trash. That evening Leonard thinks about how powerful Blade is, knowing he doesn't stand a chance, but he thinks that Ernest will never like him if he doesn't defeat Blade. The next day he meets up with Maria, who knows that he wants to win against Blade, so she tells him that she's rooting for him. Leonard thanks her, saying he will win at any cost because he wants Ernest to recognize him. At that moment Eliza joins them, knowing they can never win against Blade, so she offers to help them, saying she will come up with a plan for them. Leonard gathers Blade's friends, asking them if they have any suggestions on how they can defeat him, so Jessica suggests attacking him while he sleeps. Ernest calls it a cowardly tactic, but Eliza reminds her that Blade is overpowered, so it isn't really a fair fight. Eliza explains that they need to defeat Blade by any means necessary, but Ernest says that she wants to fight him head-on using any weapon that can give her the advantage. They conclude the meeting and Ernest fights Blade using Leonard's lance, but he easily defeats her, breaking the lance. Jessica says that it's time to try her method, so she sneaks into Blade's room while he's sleeping, but Iona sees her and blasts her away. Jessica wonders why she attacked her because they're supposed to be allies, but Iona tells her that it was an automatic function. The others try to take him on, but none of them stand a chance because Blade is just too strong. Ernest even tries to win in the game of rock, paper, scissors, but she keeps on losing and she ends up breaking her wrist. They have another meeting where Ernest tells everyone that she wants to defeat Blade and force him to admit defeat. They remember how Iona won against him when she used her own life as a hostage, so they think that they should use hostages to achieve their goal. Leonard seems to be against this plan, but Ernest tells him that they can win and they all decide to go along with this. In the classroom Blade asks Ernest about Leonard and the others. She tries to play dumb and Jessica tells him that they are just running an errand. Claire tells him not to worry about them as three masked men enter the room, saying the room is under their control. Ernest calls them terrorists, but Blade isn't bothered at all. The terrorists take the doctor hostage, ordering the students to leave the room. Blade is about to leave, but Ernest stops him, telling him that the doctor is being held hostage. The doctor seems to be happy about this, knowing Blade is about to save her, and the girls volunteer to be taken as hostage, wanting Blade to save them. They start arguing with each other as the doctor walks away, letting them take her spot. Ernest has been chosen as the hostage, but Blade doesn't even know what a hostage is, so he asks Ku to explain it. But Ku tells him that a hostage is a food, and this just makes him confused. His calm demeanor gets on Ernest's nerves, and she tells him to save her as the girls tell him that they have all been tied down, so they need to be saved. But Blade is still trying to understand what is happening, thinking that the terrorists are going to keep them as food. The terrorists tell Blade to surrender, but Blade knows that they are his friends because he recognized their behavior. They remove their masks and they all bow to him as Blade asks them what they plan to do with the girls. Chasm tells him that they are going to be kept as food, saying the girls now belong to him. But Claire beats him up. Leonard tells Blade to surrender, knowing he is weak against hostages, but he tells Leonard that their plan won't work. He takes Ernest as a hostage while Clay asks Blade if he is going to give up, but Blade casually swings his sword and the boys are disarmed and stripped of their clothes. Everyone attacks Blade with everything they have, but he wipes the floor with them, wondering what they are doing. Maria admits that the boys were just pretending to be terrorists, so Blade thinks that they were playing a make-believe game, asking them if they will be back tomorrow, but it seems they've had enough. On a different day, Blade sees a girl celebrating her birthday, and we learn he has no idea what birthday is. Arness takes this info back to the girls and tells them even if they wanted to celebrate Blade's birthday, He doesn't even know when it is, and Diamante adds that by the time anyone learned of his existence he was already standing and walking, and he's probably 17 years old, but the day they found him is coming up in a month. The king interrupts their picnic and says they should prepare what's known as a royal tone katsukori as a present for him. Later the king takes all the students to the royal pantry, which is a special place beneath the academy in a separate time and space, and the gate won't reopen unless the students complete the task of consuming a total of 11.3 billion calories. But Arnest could probably do that by herself. Cu smells something delicious, and Diamante explains the ingredients here have been preserved since ancient times, and the king adds that the plants and animals are ferocious. Blade isn't so sure about this, but Ernest and the students move out with confidence. They begin hunting monsters down and cook a giant piece of meat. Later that night Ernest joins Blade in a hot spring. While telling him not to look, she glances at his scar and asks him about his childhood, and he answers he basically spent 24 hours a day fighting for his life, causing Ernest to give a saddened look with him being unable to experience a proper childhood. She touches his scar and pulls in close, but Claire pushes her away, embarrassing Ernest. The next day we see the transition from a caveman era to more of a medieval one, and Iona tells the group they've hit about 47% of their calorie target range. The king is so glad they all survived and announces their next task to gather ingredients listed on the flyers, causing everyone to get fired up. They'd first face off against an emperor cabbage and take it down together. Their next ingredient is unboxing corn, and it emerges from its husk with gloves. Sophie tells Blade to beat it with gloves, otherwise the corn will taste good. A bell rings and the corn goes straight for a sucker punch. After that, Blade and the corn trade blows back and forth until the corn sits in defeat, which means they are able to capture it. But Blade also sits in defeat for some reason as well. Later they gathered chilies that emit a gas that caused Iona to cry, and after that sunflowers that fire destructive lasers from sunlight everywhere, and then a big carrot that screams a lethal curse. Iona offers to pull it out since she's unaffected by curses, and we watch it wipe out all the birds and forests before seeing them all pulled out. They fly back to their main base of operations, and in the evening they eat their dinner while the king talks about how good it was for them to call all the monsters here in the pantry, and tells them they'll be facing against their final ingredient tomorrow. The next day they're approached by the mighty Beast King, who gets destroyed by the even larger behemoth. The king tells them to hunt it down and that the meat from it is the tastiest around. Blade is worried of the danger, but Ernest is happy that the meat will taste good. They begin to fight, but the behemoth pushes them back. Then Sophie and Iona fire projectiles and Ernest lights a humongous flame, but we see it had no effect as the behemoth prepares to retaliate. Leonard activates a barrier to protect them, and Blade takes Asmodeus and asks for Mao's energy for his next attack, but she finds an interesting way to transmit the energy faster.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Blade powers up his next attack with Mao to create the giant holy demon blade and use it to split the behemoth in two. With Blade completely exhausted in Mao's lap, he tells her he's hungry and passes out. The next day Blade runs to the dining hall and gets surprised for his birthday. Blade wonders what this is, and Ernest explains they're here for him on his special day. At the table, Ernest removes the cloth covering the food and reveals the special tonkatsu curry. Blade stares at it, saying he's not used to things like this, and after taking his first bite he remembers someone telling him a long time ago boys aren't supposed to cry, but the king says man, tears are meant for occasions like this, and Blade cries while eating, feeling grateful for his wonderful friends, because this was all he ever wanted. On another day we see Clay pull off Dragon Smash, damaging a dummy. We then see Sophie come up to them and she draws her blade and fires her own Dragon Smash, destroying the dummy completely. But we learn it's not Sophie we know as we see two Sophies clash. The friend group is completely in shock, but Sophie in black escapes. We then see her make it to a secret place as she walks past several different Sophies with distinct personalities. She'd apparently failed her mission to destroy Blade, but learned something valuable, so this other Sophie kisses her to transmit data, and they all start kissing each other to learn that Sophie had learned Dragon Smash, and they all ready their weapons and test out Dragon Smash, blowing up their hideout.
Women.
Later we see Claire test for fire shot against a dummy, but Blade wonders what's so impressive. They then see the Sophie with a scythe named Tua, and Blade asks what she wants to learn. She responds she wants to learn how to make babies, causing the girls to get embarrassed. Tula then goes on the attack, asking to learn how to kill him, and Blade retaliates with the two clashing back and forth. Blade says he can't actually teach her how to kill him, so she comes up and develops some interesting plot while asking him to kill her instead. But suddenly Sophie appears and gets angry staring at the plot, and so Tua runs away. Later the group enjoys lunch and Ernest says that Sophie should all just enroll in the academy. She thinks they are really trying to kill Blade, but everyone at the table matter of fact states they all try to kill Blade all the time. And this is when Ernest finally realizes that Blade is being targeted by assassins, which causes Sophie to trip over how stupid her friends are for not realizing this sooner. She gets up and says not to worry because she'll protect Blade, but back at the Sophie hideout we see that Sophie's all together trying to figure out who should attack Blade next, and Yu tells them not to waste their energy as it'll shorten their lifespans. Further, we did hear a man call all of them and he commands the Sophies to destroy Blade in order to validate the fruits of his research in the artificial Great Hero project. The Sophies disperse and Yoon confirms they will complete the task as their sole mission in life. At night Sophie appears in Blade's bedroom and Iona prepares to engage combat but stops once she realizes it's just regular Sophie. Iona asks if Sophie wants to sleep next to Blade and to not worry because she'll protect him, but Sophie says it's all right and leaves. When she steps outside she sees Yoon outside the dorm. She tells her to stop pursuing Blade because the Great Artificial Hero project ended long ago. But Yoon refuses, telling Sophie that her others have very short lifespans because of the modifications they received and that their orders are absolute. She dives in and slashes Sophie, but Sophie easily strikes back. But she won't finish the job because of her compassion. Yoon leaves saying she'll be back another day. The next day during VR training they meet with Sink, the tiny Sophie who is both childish and airheaded. She dives in, smashing the ground with her fist, then she knocks Blade into the ground and pounds him over and over again. But this was just VR, so Blade wakes up perfectly fine. The gang tells Blade that Sink left happily because she believes she destroyed Blade. But the next day she breaks into the school furious upon realizing it was all fake. She chases down Blade and another Sophie appears in front of them striking, but Blade narrowly slides out. Iona then taunts them with a "your mom" joke to provoke them further and they escape the building. Ernest has a squad ready to fire where the two Sophies are arriving, but it fails and Blade has to protect Ernest. The two Sophies get up and use their great hero powers to create a black hole which draws in the surrounding area. The two Sophies fall as the hole continues and two students get drawn in. But Blade saves them. Sophie appears and absorbs the hole. She passes out from all the strain. Blade looks up to see that Sophie's staring back at them and then they leave. At night Sophie wakes up in the infirmary and Blade offers her some apples he cut rabbit-shaped. But Sophie teases him for using his sword to cut them. Blade then explains there's been no casualties. Sophie apologizes for what her clones had done. He asks Sophie to explain what they are and she tells him they are like her but with additional modifications that shorten their lives, and that even though she was rescued by the king and able to make friends, those Sophies had no one, and she sympathizes with her upbringing because she could have ended up just like them. Blade tells her he wants to befriend them as well and that it would be nice if the 5 of them could join the academy. But Sophie cries as Blade holds her and she knows that isn't possible for the other Sophies to disobey their orders. And later, after Blade passes out, we see Sophie had taken off. The next day the students learned from King that Sophie had left a formal note withdrawing from the academy. Ernest angrily asks why he didn't stop her and he says students who enroll have the right to leave and it's not his duty to stop them. Blade tells her to calm down and he can tell King is just as concerned for Sophie. They plan to chase after her and Jessica reveals info on where Sophie might be headed. Blade is ready to go, but the king tells them to think about why she went off by herself and that more than likely it was to prevent her friends from dirtying their hands. As Sophie believes she'd likely have to kill her clones later, Blade is still determined to track down Sophie regardless of what King said, and Mao joins him because she cares for her too. They walk past the school entrance and see the rest of the friend group ready to join the search as well. We then see Sophie finding one of the abandoned hideouts and Ernest spots her telling everyone else as well. Sophie tries to leave and tells Ernest to let her be and that there's something she hasn't told them. Sophie finally reveals to everyone that she was created during the artificial Great Hero project as a being to equal the Great Hero's power, and that she was subject number 12. Everyone who took part in the research was arrested and the 5 other Sophies are stolen research samples and they've been modified in an attempt to surpass the Great Hero. Friends wonder why the Sophie is after Blade, to which Sophie looks away, but luckily Ernest has only one brain cell as she comes to the conclusion that they just want to test their powers against someone strong like Blade. Sophie, Blade and Mao are in disbelief at their stupidity. So she feels as if her past has caught up to her and wonders if it was all right to have been so happy during her time at the academy with them for a human imposter like her to live like a real person. But she's determined to protect them all even if it costs her life. But Ernest chops her because she doesn't like this and does it over and over, saying this whole thing is ridiculous. But thanks to Blade, she herself was able to change and become a happier person, and that of destroying the Sophies is the only option, then they'll join as well. But Blade refuses to destroy them and says he'll find a different solution, so Ernest asks if he has a plan, but he doesn't have a plan at all and asks everyone to help, to which they easily agree. Blade then tells Sophie to give her life to him and she says okay. Blade then tells Eliza to come up with a plan and she has one in mind. We then move to the Sophie's lair where two of them are woken up from resting. The man commanding them and reminds they only exist to destroy the hero. Then the two other Sophies walk in and give a letter of challenge left by Blade. At the school arena, the Sophies arrives to kill Blade, but he was hoping they could all be friends. He draws his sword and the Sophies go on to attack. But Blade endures their constant offense, with the plan being to deplete their energy so that Eliza can track down their master in order to arrest him and interrogate him for a way to reprogram and save the Sophies. Blade continues to hold them off, getting disarmed, and even though Ernest wants to jump in, Sophie stops her because if they intervene the Sophies will likely run away. Blade pushes them back, but he's exhausted. Sophie then starts using her artificial great hero powers to twist gravity and knock Blade around, leaving him on the ground. Then Toa uses a clone attack, but Jessica and Clay toss Blade something. He inserts into his sword and he's able to wipe out all the clones and she falls from exhaustion. Spear Sophie charges in and Blade gets an energy tablet from Leonard that creates a barrier to block the attack and his sword shatters. Ernest then tosses hers, but Sync crashes into the ground, causing Blade to miss his catch. Sophie then teleports in to save Blade and he then uses hero power from Sophie that counter Sync's attack and she passes out, leaving only Yoon left. She fires her attack and Blade counters with an Ernest Kaiju beam and she tells him not to call it that. The attacks collide and destroys the arena, but Yoon still stands. He asks her what's wrong and suddenly she falls apart. He rushes to her and she tells him they were only going to last until sunset today, and on the other side of communication Eliza sees their research pages and says they were lucky to last as long as they did. Claire tries to heal Yoon but has no effect. They even found their master, but there's no answer to be had as he's already dead, and he's actually been dead since the day they were born, and they were never even given commands to begin with. If Eliza had more time she could find a way to reprogram the Sophies, but there's none left. Sophie then rounds up all of her sisters and tells Yoon there's still a way for them to live. But Yoon says with her mission failed, what point is there to living? Blade tells them to live and to try to surpass him, and the other Sophies think that would be a lot of fun. Sophie then has Yoon use her powers and tells Blade to take control of Yoon's power so that their minds and souls can merge with Sophie's. The next day we see Blade in the infirmary and we learn right now Yoon is the one talking through Sophie. She's come to check on Blade and tells him she'll be the one to kill him once he's better. Sophie then comes back and tells him sharing a body is like having 6 children, but she's glad they're with her. Later the students are fighting off a giant magical beast and the king enjoys watching them fight. Ernest tries her best but her sword runs out of juice. Leonard then gets knocked out in one shot. Sophie grabs his lance and uses attacks from each of her sisters. Mao and Yana shoot at the beast. But this also has no effect and they get blown back with King enjoying himself. But then suddenly with a single stroke Blade comes in with a plate of curry and everyone shouts that he's too powerful, and that's the end of this series. And that's the end of the video. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I will bring more excitement anime in the future. Thanks for watching, bye.